Hi, this is Greg Thomas, and welcome to the Leadership Excellence channel. I have once again invited Paul Thornton, a recognized leadership influencer, to come to our channel and discuss his latest book, Demands Greater Than Coping Skills: The Real Reason You're Stressed and How to Fix It. I've known Paul for over 20 years, and his entire career has been focused on management and leadership development. Paul is a prolific author, consultant, business executive, and trainer. He has presented numerous seminars and workshops, and I will have all of his contact information in the comments area below. We've actually had other podcasts with Paul, and they include performance management for new managers, the leadership process. Are you effective at each step of the leadership process? And then we've had, is your organization aligned? You know, Paul, if you write any more books, I'm going to have to get a 55-inch screen just to put all the books on them. But we're here today to discuss his latest book. Paul has been very gracious in agreeing to talk about that on this podcast. I hope you enjoy the podcast, and let me know in the comments area below if you'd like future videos like this interview with Paul. So, Paul, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for adding some of my books to your bookcase. I appreciate that. Yeah,
Happy to do it.
well, that's
Great
good.
content, very helpful material. So I'm really happy to do it. So how many books have you now written?
I've actually written 25.
Wow.
My books are, as you know, short, to the point. Most of them are like 75 pages long. You can read them typically in a half hour to an hour. I try to highlight one big idea that I
Hmm.
think will help leaders be more successful and more effective. So short and to the point. And they're also very inexpensive. They're on Amazon, but they cost anywhere from $2.99 to $4.99, that type of thing. So you don't go broke buying my books.
Right. Well, I think I purchased every one of them on Amazon. So that's a great source. I'm sure there's other great sources to
Hmm.
be able to get your books, but that's very convenient for me. So
Yeah.
again, congratulations on your
Thank you.
latest book. In
Thank you.
chapter one, you provide a helpful, simple formula to understand stress. You're right, and I'll quote you. You say, "My formula provides a simple framework to help you understand your situation. D greater than CS equals SR." Well, it's a great formula, but can you help define what D and CS and SR relate to?
Sure, that's a good place to start. Uh, Demands relate to, or D stands for demands. And
Hmm.
demands, there's two factors there. One is the tasks that we have to get done each day.
Yeah.
And secondly, the worries or concerns that we have, they demand a certain amount of our attention and time. So that's the D part of it. The coping skills I break into three different pieces. One is self-management, how well we, set goals, organize ourselves, manage our time, that type of thing. How do
Hmm.
we, get through the day doing the things we need to get done? I also think it includes your habits like sleeping, diet, exercise, relaxation, those types of things. And the third piece of the coping is your support group. If we have people we can go to for help and guidance,
Hmm.
that helps us get suggestions and ideas to cope better with our demands. Now, when your demands exceed your coping skills, you get stressed out. My big idea is, when we're stressed out, we become less effective.
Right.
We don't get as much done as we'd like. Our relationships sometimes suffer. So we want to, stay in control. We want to manage our demands such that we can get things done and be productive and efficient and what have you.
Hmm.
When we get stressed, I think we can have three different types of reactions. One is behavioral. You can act out, you can argue and yell and scream and, yell at the computer for, I don't know, whatever. And another thing is we have psychological reactions. We can get anxious, we can get moody, we can withdraw. And thirdly, we get physical reactions. We can get headaches, migraine headaches, our blood pressure goes up, some sort of physical reaction to the stress that's hitting us at that time. So those are the three pieces. And what I think is helpful about this kind of gives you the big picture view of what's going on with me. Is it my demands are too much? Am I not coping well? Why am I getting stressed? And what can I do about it? That's kind of the main focus, I guess, of the book.
Sure. Well, in discussing the three stress reactions, the one that I found most interesting that I have experienced
Yeah,
was the psychological
yeah.
response. And the reason I find that so interesting is it's a subliminal internal response, and most of us don't pick up on it within our minds until it's almost too late. We kind of develop an immunity
Mm.
to what's really going on, and our minds have an ability to adjust and think we're coping with stress, where internally it's really chewing us up
Hmm.
until it gets to a very serious levels. Can you explain this a little bit further,
Yeah,
how this works?
I think that's true. I think we tend to suppress problems and negative things we don't like to the subconscious level, as they say in psychology. Um, the whole emphasis on leadership training often is becoming more self-aware. The whole emphasis on emotional intelligence is becoming more aware of your emotions so you can channel, especially the negative
Mhm.
ones, in a positive direction. So awareness will help us, identify what's going on sooner, and hopefully we can react to it. But as you pointed out, Greg, we tend to, suppress or deny or rationalize, or we don't want to deal with something, so we kind of push it down, so to speak, and it comes around and it makes us nervous and anxious and causes some reaction down the road. So we got to be more honest with ourselves and face those things and figure out what can we do to, deal with it. Um, the whole psychology profession deals with people that keep those things suppressed
Mhm.
and help them bring them to the conscious level and deal with them in a more productive way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I absolutely do. And while you did mention emotional intelligence for our listeners and those watching the program today, on the Leadership Excellence channel, I'll be posting the third of a series of podcasts I've had with Vic Cubic on the Cubic Report, in which we
mhm,
focused on emotional intelligence. We
mhm,
began by describing it, giving a little bit of its history. Then the second podcast was about how we can grow emotional intelligence. We know that IQ is relatively static, but you
yeah,
can actually grow and develop your emotional intelligence. And then the one we just led last week, that'll be posted shortly, are just some real good examples that you either
yeah,
experience in yourself or in other people of high levels of emotional intelligence. So thank you
mhm,
for bringing it up, Paul. It's a
yeah,
very important point.
great
So,
topic.
yeah. So when we're trying to develop the ability to manage our stress, one of the things you brought out as an example is a daily task list. So why is examining our daily task list important in managing our stress?
Well, I think the first step is we got to get clear on what are our tasks for the day. Like Greg, you and I both have a certain number of things we need to get done today.
Hmm.
If you wrote down everything you need to get done, from writing an article to conducting a podcast to going to the grocery store and buying a gallon of milk, you'd have a list of some number of things. So once you kind of get an idea of what's on that list, you can kind of step back and think about, okay, what can I delegate? What can I eliminate? What can I put off maybe to a future date? Or am I in good shape to get all of that done? You know, uh,
Hmm.
it's also important to look at your task list and be clear on your top priorities. what are the two or three things you absolutely must get done, you want to get done, they're the must-dos. So getting clear on what's on the task list, I think, is step one. Some people go through the day and they're adding to it and deleting stuff, and it's not as systematic maybe as it should be. There's a little bit of chaos, and they're bouncing all over the place with, oh, I got to go here, I got to go there. They're not organized as well as they should be,
Sure.
so I think that helps.
Yeah, I think of a statement by, I believe it's David Allen, who said and emphasizes that once we write something down that's in our mind, we can give ourselves permission not to think about it because we've
Mm,
written it down to remind ourselves. He says if you don't write that down, then subliminally, that's almost haunting you. Like you
mm,
got to do this. You
mm,
need to do this. You should
mm,
do this soon. And
mm,
it keeps subliminally almost torturing us throughout the day as we're doing other duties. But he says
mm.
once you write it down on your daily task list, you're not going to forget it because now
Yeah,
you have it written down. You can forget about that, let that haunting feeling go, and just
yeah,
focus on your higher priorities and the things
right.
that you need to get done. So I,
Yeah, and I don't think, Greg, I don't think you're going to be writing all of your task lists down every single day.
mhm,
But once in a while, stepping back and listing them and getting clear on, what exactly is going on in my life, my work, my family, my hobbies, my friends, etc. How's it all shaping out, and what
mhm.
does it look like when I step back and look at the big picture? We often get pulled into the weeds and we get involved in all sorts of things, but we don't step back and again see the big picture.
Yeah, excellent, excellent point.
Mm,
Another important topic you discuss in the book
yeah,
in managing stress is our tendency to worry about things. And I think it's part of being human is worrying about certain things that are going on.
yeah,
And the reality is, most of the things we worry about never come true. So we tend
yeah.
to get anxious and all upset and think of worst case scenarios. And in most cases, those don't come true, but there's still a level of stress and they're still going on working in our minds in the background,
Hmm. Yeah.
causing increased stress. So we have that tendency to worry about things. How can it be better achieved to manage our tendency to worry?
Mm. Yeah, I think, there are legitimate worries, and there are lots of worries that, like you said, Greg, they're probably not going to come true. And sometimes there's nothing you can do anyway,
Mhm.
I'm going to play tennis tomorrow. I'm worried it's going to rain. Well, I have no control over that.
Right, sure.
I guess the only control I could have was I could schedule the tennis match to be indoors versus outside. But
Mhm.
you know what I mean? There's a
Sure.
lot of
Yeah.
worries that we take on, and when you again step back and say, what's the likelihood of this worry happening? A lot of times it's remote, but somehow we get it into our head and our self-talk, and we keep thinking about it, and we're worried, and some people worry about way too many things. And you're right, you got to separate what can you control and what can you not control. And as best you can, let go of the things you can't control, and, focus on what you can control and deal with that. Yeah, but worries certainly are part
Mm,
of the demands that we deal with day to day. So we got to
excellent
think
point.
about those as well. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful. I enjoyed your chapter entitled Coping Skills Managing Self-Management.
Yeah.
What are some examples of poor self-management that we may fall into?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think we're all victims to various things here, but um, setting priorities, I think, is really important. And some people aren't too good at that. I've had bosses that everything is a priority. Everything must be done tomorrow. So being clear on your priorities and being able to stick with them. Some people have priorities, but they bounce around and they don't stick with them and get their priorities done. Procrastination is another
Mm,
one. Some people have a hard time making decisions. They want more data, they want more input, they wait and postpone, and it just goes on and on and on, and that kind of affects them.
Mhm.
Conflict management. Some people are, not that good at really sitting down with someone and discussing what's happening. Let's talk it through. Let's get to the bottom line. Let's figure out how we're going to work together. So, those are some things that lead to poor self-management, and they often create bigger demands in our life. And when we can't make decisions and resolve conflicts and procrastinate, all
Mhm.
these things keep mounting up. So our demand side of the equation gets bigger
Yes.
and bigger, and it's not
Yes.
good.
Sure. Right. So let's reverse the question. What are some examples of effective or good self-management?
Yeah, I've met some people that are very, very, very good at managing their day-to-day life.
Hmm.
They're good at setting goals, they know their priorities, they know what information they need to make decisions, they're timely, they're good at delegating, um, they're very efficient with what they do. There's not a lot of wasted words or time. They just get a lot done.
Hmm.
As we said, other people are the other extreme. You add one more task that they have to do in their life, and they just panic and they throw up their arms and they're out of control.
Yes.
So if we can improve and develop our self-management skills, we're able to take on and handle more and more demands, which is a good thing, basically.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You have a short chapter, but I thought it was really a good chapter on personal lifestyle habits, and this ties in with some of the things we've been talking about, part
yeah.
of self-management. What's a major thing that we can do to cope with stress? What is just one major change for some of us, or major thing we can do to cope better with stress?
I think we all need some techniques we can use to kind of unwind and be focused. I meditate twice a day. I think that's a good technique to use. Other people go to yoga, go for a walk every day. Some people do that, listen to music. There's a lot of different things you can do, but I think you need some technique where you can get away from the demands that are, you know, not controlling you, but taking your attention and time. And I think what often happens, Greg, is when our demands increase, we stop using our coping skills because we want to take that time of, meditating 20 minutes. I want to take
Mhm.
that time and use it to deal with one of my demands, so I stop
Right, sure.
coping.
Yeah.
And that's not good because now I'm just not doing the things I need to do to maintain my presence and my focus and my clarity. Clarity is a good word.
Hmm.
So be mindful of that. You don't want to do that. But I think that's important, as well as
Yeah.
diet and sleep and having some sort of exercise routine. I think those are all important habits that we should,
Mhm.
think about and engage in, and those are important. But if I had to boil it down to one thing, I'd say something like, something that will help you stay centered when you need to be centered. Meditation, yoga, listening to music, whatever works for you.
Yeah, you mentioned meditation. Well, I don't want to get too personal here with you, but you're a good example. So, is your meditation structured? Like, are you choosing a certain time every day to meditate twice, or can you just share with us your
Yeah, sure.
habits or
Yeah,
how
sure.
you got into the routine of meditation?
Yep. I typically meditate first thing in the morning after I get up out of bed, get dressed and what have you, showered. I meditate for like 15, 20 minutes, and it's really simple. It's really just closing my eyes and listening, listening to any thoughts coming into my head or sounds outside or whatever, but
Hmm.
just listening for the 20 minutes. And a
Right.
lot of things pull you away from being just present in the moment. Things pull you into the future,
Sure.
things pull you into the past. But part of meditating is just being in the moment, being present
Mhm.
in the current moment. And then I do it again, typically late afternoon, early evening, again for 20 minutes. And again, it clears my head, it helps
Mhm.
me focus, it helps me be present, and I find it very helpful.
Yes, thank you for
Yeah.
sharing with us. I think it'll be helpful to a lot of individuals listening to the podcast.
Hmm.
Another way that you suggest dealing with stress is being part of a support group. You mentioned that early on
Yeah.
our podcast today. Can you share with us why and how a support group can be helpful? I mean, I can hear people saying now, if I were to say that, I can hear clients or people saying now, Greg, I'm just so busy. I don't have the time to drive 30 minutes to meet with a group of people and then spend an hour in fellowshipping or talking with them, then 30 minutes
Yeah.
back to work or back to home. So I don't know if that's just an excuse or maybe there is a wide variety of support groups that one can
Yeah.
use. Can you clarify that a little bit for us?
Yeah. By that I mean it's important to have one or more people that you can talk with that can give you some advice and insights and maybe help you look at the issue or problem or challenge from
Hmm.
another point of view. It's not necessarily a group of 10 people that get together and talk about their problems and that type of thing. Although, some people I guess do that. But, just calling someone or emailing someone saying, I'm having this issue, I'm struggling with it. Have you ever faced anything like this? And what did you do?
Hmm.
And how did it
Hmm.
work out? Or calling a friend and, same idea. Um, we have blind spots. We don't always see the issue as clearly as we should or would like to. So having another perspective can help us. Oh, I didn't see it that way, or I didn't think about it that way. And, it can give us maybe a breakthrough of what we can do to, as I say, solve the problem or deal with the issue. So I think it can be helpful.
Yeah. As you were talking there, I was just reminded myself that a lot of executives and business folks belong to mastermind
Yeah.
groups, and that's essentially what that is, a support group.
Same idea. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
other people belong to groups like Vistage, and their whole purpose are to bring together like-minded business individuals, like-minded in that they're all
Hmm.
usually business owners or at upper level of an organization, and they share with each other their frustrations, their
Right.
challenges, maybe sometimes their own discouragement, and the other members of the group lift them
Hmm.
up and encourage them and
Hmm.
share their experiences and maybe solutions
Exactly.
to some of the things they're struggling.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Good. Well, in the book, you provide some practical steps to reduce stress. We've talked about a number of them already. Are there any more that you can share with us in the podcast? Some practical steps to reduce stress. You mentioned diet and
Yep.
sleep, and
Yep.
we've talked about a few of them in the questions that we have asked as far as our lifestyle choices, effective self-management. Anything else you can share with us on that?
Yeah, I think the big idea again is you want to try to reduce your demands as best you can, and you want to improve your coping skills to get more efficient and effective at what you're doing.
Hmm.
And you can think about it as an individual, what can I do for myself? But if you're the leader of a team or organization, you can think even bigger picture, what can I do for my team? As I said earlier, some managers could do a better job and leaders could do a better job of being clear on the top priorities for the team. They could make
Hmm.
sure they're not over delegating to certain team members and under delegating to other team members. Um, they could, make decisions more promptly or more timely, and that would help the group keep moving forward in the right direction. So my point is you can apply this little formula not only to yourself, but to your team. What can I do to help my team?
Hmm.
My wife took over a group or a team, at the company she worked at, and she found everybody on the team was stressed out,
Mm,
really,
yeah.
really stressed out. I mean, getting high blood pressure and
Oh,
heart
yeah.
attacks and, all that. And she came to conclude that the previous manager, everything was a priority, everything. And she was a tough boss, the previous boss, and very demanding and didn't accept any excuses and all that. So the group was highly stressed out and their productivity was going downhill. So first thing she did was say, okay, here are the top three priorities we have for the next 12 months. And that one little thing helped alleviate a lot of the stress that people were feeling.
Oh,
So again, a leader
mhm.
needs to think about what can I do with my group to lessen the stress level? How can I help them be more productive and more effective? And as I said earlier, Greg, when we're stressed out, our relationships typically suffer. We're
Mhm.
short with people, we don't listen well, we're more self-absorbed. We don't make, as I said, timely decisions. So that all can affect our relationships with our team members, and that's not good either. Um, so I don't know if that answered your question, but what else can we do? I think we always can be working on improving our coping skills. For example, time management. That's something we can always work on, we can always get better at. So there's lots of videos, YouTube videos on it. There's lots of experts that talk about it. Taking that on is something I want to develop two or three new techniques to manage my time more effectively. Same idea with conflict management or procrastination. How can I, lessen the amount I procrastinate? We all procrastinate to some extent, but what can I do to make an impact there? So continuous learning on the coping side will help us be better at managing our demands, I think. Yeah.
I guess we could say in a nutshell then that we want our formula to be demands are less than, preferably far less than
Yep.
coping skills.
Yep. Right.
Right? So that
Exactly.
kind of
Yep.
encapsulates it. Well, thank you so much. So, Paul, what's next on your personal goal list? I have never not known you to be working on another book. So, what's
Well,
next on your personal goal list?
that's a good question. I'm working, one thing I'm concentrating on
Mhm.
is I have five grandsons, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
helping them, I think, in some small ways, develop their leadership skills. Um, as
Mhm.
everything in life, it's kind of a bell-shaped curve. Some of them are already showing some real, propensity towards leadership, and
Great.
some not so much. But working with them to talk about, what is a leader? What would you do in this situation and why? Doing role playing, uh, and developing their skills, of what a
Wonderful.
leader
Yeah.
would do and their
Mhm.
core values. What do you really believe in? So I'm doing that, but I am also writing two other books at the moment. One is on um, little stories that I've come across over the years that have an important leadership lesson. You and I both know that people like to read stories
Mhm.
and they captivate people's attention. So I'm working on that. My other book is I'm trying to come up with some tips that would help managers and leaders do these things we were talking about: manage your time, communicate, listen better, but boiling it down to like 10 key tips that would help them, be better at communicating or coaching or making decisions, whatever, that type of thing. So
Yeah.
leadership skills. So that's what I'm working on.
Great. That sounds good. And I hope we'll have a chance to talk about that book when you come out with it.
I
So
hope you have some space on your um, bookcase for another book or two.
I'll make room for it. I can always buy a bigger bookcase or a bigger screen,
Yeah.
whatever is necessary. So, Paul, what's the best way for someone to contact you about a seminar or a workshop? I know you've done many of those in the past.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to get in touch
Okay.
with me. I post an article or a little something, a message there,
Hmm.
typically 2, 3 times a week. So LinkedIn is probably the best place. Yep.
Great. Very good.
Yep.
Well, Paul, thanks a million for joining us today. We always appreciate your leadership insight,
Hmm.
appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us on effective management principles and taking a look at your latest book right here. Again, thank you so much.
Mm.
And this is Greg Thomas reminding all of you that you too can be a leader. Paul, what's that famous saying of yours? Be a leader.
Be a leader, make a difference.
There we go.
Be a
Goodbye,
leader, make a
everybody.
difference. We need more leaders out there, right?
Absolutely. Thanks again, Paul. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate you having me on.